the digital boy using ZBrush. You know, you laugh, but it's true. This is my life. I'm the digital boy. You're the traditional physical art boy.
Yeah,
sculpting is what we're talking about. Welcome to Artist Anonymous. Art Anonymous.
Art Anonymous.
Oh, we already screwed it up.
Okay, we'll start over.
No, it's fine. It's fine. We'll keep going.
Yeah, we'll edit it out in post. No, we won't. We're not gonna do that.
And here with me is Daryl.
Hello, I am a ceramic artist. Pretty boring traditional path, you know. But I love it.
I mean, digital art is boring for the people that are in digital art, right?
Yeah.
You always.
I'm not in it.
I don't know. I feel like you always want to be in the thing that you're not. The grass is always greener, right?
Yeah.
The grass is always greener on the other side.
I could see that. I definitely really enjoy what I do. Actually, I had this conversation today. I don't know if I'm pulling us away from our primary goals here, but I had a conversation today with somebody who wanted to be
a digital artist.
A digital artist. Right. He wanted to do like animation.
Okay.
I started talking about.
I at one point also wanted to do animation, and then I realized that it sucks.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was trying to tell him. I was like, yeah, dude. When I was in middle school, I think I torrented Flash. I taught myself how to animate two-dimensionally.
This is not us saying go steal software.
Yeah, I'm not saying do that. I was like 14, so you can't even.
Yeah, you can't prosecute a 14-year-old.
Exactly. Yeah. but I did that, and then I taught myself how to animate two-dimensionally in Flash, and I learned a lot of frame-by-frame tweening, all that sort of thing. And then I moved on to the big boy things like Blender, open source 3D modeling software. Learned how to model rigs.
It's more of a medium boy because it's still free.
I know, it's still free. It's open source. But to me, I was like, whoa. Like, it was like heaven. But I learned how to do that, make rigs, weight paint them, make my structure and everything else. And then I started animating, and God, it's horrible. It's so time-consuming. So I told him that story, and he was like, yeah, man, it does take a long time, but it's a lot of fun. And I was like, it is a lot of fun.
It's so rewarding.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
Yeah, no. I remember when you got into it, too.
Yeah, for a while there.
It's not...
And then more and more into modeling. Started modeling just a bunch of garbage at school, hard surface stuff, and then tried out Mudbox, went to Japan. Mudbox didn't work on my laptop, downloaded ZBrush, and went from there. Bought some ZBrush books and studied Japanese and ZBrush while I was in Tokyo hanging out.
Really?
Yeah.
You studied Japanese and ZBrush?
I didn't go to like school to study ZBrush. I just bought some books and read them. When you're in Japan and you speak English, when you're in Nihon or Nippon, and you speak English and very little Japanese, you become a hermit.
Yeah.
You just become a hermit.
You get ostracized to you stay in here.
Yeah,
here's
so
your room.
I stayed in my cupboard, and every once in a while I would leave to the kombini, aka gas station that doesn't give gas, just a little convenience store.
Oh, okay.
And get some $1 little meals, and then I would go back to my room, crawl under my blankets, and hiss to myself like Golem.
and learn how to ZBrush.
And learn how to ZBrush. And that's pretty much my life for 3 months.
I'm pretty sure that any artist, any artist that is taking it seriously, that's their life at some point. It's just I didn't see the sun for a good portion of my life.
Yeah, my skin started flaking off.
Yeah,
I became a snake for a little bit. It was a good time. All right, so back on track. Art Anonymous, the name of our show. So what we've kind of decided to do is try to ask you guys, the listeners, for some questions, to send in your questions, whatever they may be regarding art or sculpting or ceramics or specifically digital sculpting or anything kind of in that realm. And we'll do our best to not give very, very crappy answers.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And so that could pertain to ceramic. In a traditional sense, you do ceramic, wood, bronze, wax. I've dabbled in a lot of things, so mold making. Any questions pertaining to any of those things, any traditional type of sculpture relation. I've had my hand in a little bit of everything, but my primary focus is ceramics. So any questions pertaining to that, definitely. But also questions with how do you not quit? And
how do you not give up?
Yeah.
Which we kind of touched on a little bit previously, but we can always bloviate, as I said last time, a little bit more. Talk at length. Right? It's the fanciest word that I know, actually.
Yeah.
That's why I keep saying it.
Gotta work it into every conversation.
It's 3 syllables. I'm like, yes, this is a good one. This is at least 30-point word. I got to keep working it. All right. So I asked earlier on social media for people to send in a couple questions. Not really saying what I was doing, but just kind of giving a general idea of saying, like, send us in some art questions or anything regarding sculpting. So our first question here, sent in by an Art Anonymous user, is what we're gonna
we're gonna call
member.
You guys. Yeah,
an AA member. Okay,
yeah, you guys are AA members.
All right, Daryl. So here's the question.
Yes.
How do you overcome artist block? How do you overcome art block?
You don't.
You don't. Wow. All right.
How to overcome art block? I think the question lies with the question lies the problem. If you're trying to overcome art block, you're not going to. I don't think if you intentionally try to get over something, like try to milk creative juices from your brain,
you're kind of trying to force it.
Yeah, if you're trying to force it, it's not going to work. You just have to forget about it. I mean, a lot of creative things happen to people when they're not paying attention or like not thinking about that's like art or creation or creativity at all.
Yeah, because inspiration is pulled from so many different sources.
Yeah, I would say like anything that like is meditative in your life, or not necessarily meditative in the traditional sense of I'm going to meditate now, but meditative in the sense that like you can tune out while you're doing it.
Yeah, like reading, or video games, going for a run, whatever. Yeah, actually driving is like a huge one for me, where I can just kind of become a psychopath and talk to myself out loud, and no one else can hear me,
and no one knows. Yeah, they're all out there. Yeah, no, so definitely driving is a huge one for me as well. Which is I do the same thing, where I'm just like, would that be a good idea?
Yeah,
I don't know. And someone looks at me and I'm like.
Mind your own business.
Bluetooth. It's Bluetooth. I'm talking to someone now. But like anything where you can just sort of tune out your mind and just let the inspiration come to you. That's what I try to do. I don't try to ever force an idea. If I have a general concept, then you can be like, okay, well, we'll try and make this work and work on it more attentively and purposefully. But not when you have nothing. I don't think you can ever sit down at the studio and be like, no idea what I'm doing. And I'm going to fucking make this awesome artwork now. It's just not going to work.
Yeah. So there's this artist named Chuck Close, and he's a paraplegic, I believe. Paraplegic or quadriplegic, one of the two. So he's in a wheelchair, and I can't remember if his arms work or not. I'm going to say that he's a quadriplegic, actually. Just it's been a long time since I've seen this talk from this guy. But he would paint with his mouth, so that just makes me automatically assume that he can't use his arms, and he is indeed a quadriplegic. So either way, it doesn't matter. But he's an amazing artist, and not only is he paralyzed in some form or fashion, but also he suffers from what's called face blindness. So he really struggles with remembering faces. Yeah. But the way he personally remembers faces is by painting them. And he says once he paints a face, he never forgets it. And he paints these giant murals as well. It's really cool. He has some kind of device that rotates the canvas for him. And it spins like this larger-than-life canvas, like over 6 feet tall probably. And he just gets up real close, and they're really cool. He's an amazing artist, but he's quoted as saying in this video that I saw so long ago, and excuse me while I butcher it, but it's something along the lines of inspiration and motivation. If you're waiting for all of these, you're never going to find them while the rest of the world is like getting up and going to work. And I do agree with that to the extent of if you're struggling with artist block and you're struggling with not feeling motivated or you can't find inspiration, you can kind of try to push through it. But at the same time, like Daryl said, if it's not working, then it's not working for you, and you do kind of need to get away. Yeah. There's periods where you just need to kind of rest, and like the first day of the week is Sunday, right? you start the week with rest, and then you pull back, have this idea of like a pendulum, you rest, and then swing forward into your workday. And I think, personally, that the more you rest, kind of the more you pull back on that pendulum, and the more you kind of give yourself some time there, or meditate on running, driving, whatever your thing is, the better you're going to do moving forward into that work week.
Yeah, and I would agree. Yeah, I agree with your first statement too. I mean, like, you can't push.
Are you saying disagree with me?
No, I agree with both. I agree with both things. Obviously, the second thing that was my other point. But I agree. Like, sometimes you can push through.
We're not allowed to disagree.
Yeah, we have. Well, yeah, no, definitely not.
Well, I'm the good guy. I'm good cop. You're bad cop.
Am I?
Yeah.
Am I devil's advocate? Why? Because I have red hair. I have to play devil's advocate.
Yeah. Well, and you have horns. But
and my horns.
Yeah. Oh, that's the main.
Yeah, that's and your pointy trident. I agree with both of your points, but the first point, I think you can push through it sometimes. Sometimes you do have to push through it, especially if you're talking about it in a motivation sense. Like, oh man, I really just don't want to work today.
Or if you're trying to meet a deadline, or if you're doing work for a client, you kind of have to.
Deadlines are huge.
Yeah, you have to. You have to do the work. I mean.
Yeah. I know an artist. His name's Christian Schmidt. He's a sculptor, and he sculpts primarily with cardboard, and he makes small work, usually really small work, but very intricate, very detailed, amazing artist. And he was talking about how his schedule is set up for deadlines. He tries to always have a piece in the studio and a piece in the gallery, and so he's always exhibiting and always working on something. And he makes deadlines for himself all the time. He has a whole calendar, one calendar specific to one project. And he'd be like, okay, Saturday, I have to finish 4 sculptures. Okay. And he's like, and if I will not stop working until I finish those 4 sculptures. Yeah. He's like, I don't care if I have to work until 5, 6 in the morning. I'm not going to fall behind, because like what he's doing is making work to show to people. And like the one thing you don't want to do as an artist is miss a deadline, especially if you're a traditional artist, especially if you're exhibiting in galleries. They'll blacklist you. They'll just simply they will tell other galleries not to show your work because of like your inability to meet deadlines, and that will hurt your career. So keep in mind, that's like a huge thing. Just keep in mind, like, oh, am I honestly really am I being realistic when I say I can do this in 6 months?
Yeah, and just taking the time to kind of audit yourself and figure out how long it takes you to do a specific thing. And you, like you said, be honest with yourself. And if you need to, give yourself some leeway room. I mean, it's the only way that you're going to kind of stay mentally sane and be able to kind of continue forward with a project. But I'm the same way as, did you say Scott? Or Christian, sorry.
No, his last name's Schmidt, so
Schmidt.
I can say
Yeah, totally. Okay, so I'm the same way as Scott.
I'm the same way as Michael there.
I'm the same way as Michael. I'll have a specific few projects or things that I want to do, but I don't say specifically, I'm going to work on this from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. I say, I'm going to work on this thing until it's finished, and then move on to the next thing and on to the next thing, and give myself adequate time to be able to do those things.
Yeah, definitely. That is a big thing. I give myself leeway when it comes to work, because I know I'm always going to go over. Because that's the hardest thing as an artist, right? Because nothing's ever done.
It's never finished. It's you give up on. You
finish, quote unquote, by being like, well, okay, I'm out of time. Like I have 0 more time. Yeah. So so that's the thing, is that artwork to the artist, especially to the artist, is never finished. It's never like, oh, it's done now. I could keep sculpting on the same thing for forever if I wanted to, but I'd never get anywhere. So I have to call things finished. But I have a show coming up on the 30th of November. And I actually set the deadline for me to be finished with everything on the 15th. And so I'm finishing up one more sculpture today. Or not today. I'm finishing up one more sculpture this weekend. And I said I'm going to be finished with this sculpture this weekend. No ifs, ands, or buts. But I gave myself that very heavy, very, like, this is the final day. I'm going to work on this. But I have more time. If I don't finish it by that day, then I know I have a couple days I can work on it still.
It's a soft deadline, but in your head you kind of try to make it a hard deadline as much as you can, so that you're kind of forcing yourself to work towards that. But if you still don't reach it, you kind of have some extra room.
Yeah, and that's just smart, just in case something. Like, let's just say, like, if you're a digital artist, your hard drive, you work on an external hard drive and you drop it in water. Like, Oh no.
Dude, I carry my external hard drives over open water so often.
Really?
Yeah, no.
No? Okay. Well, it's not your dog bites it or...
Your dog bites it,
you,
yes.
You knock it, you
the
drop
it. The
it.
dog that I don't have bites my hard drive. Maybe my
We're
neighbor...
talking to our AA members here.
Maybe my neighbor's dogs bite your external hard drive, because
Yeah.
they've been barking this whole time.
Yeah, there we go. Ben's neighbor's dogs have eaten his external hard drive, and now he needs to make a project again, and...
I've lost 40 hours, oh no!
Yeah, exactly. So good thing he set that... Yeah, good thing he set that soft deadline, so now he can possibly make something.
Right. That half-chub deadline.
Yeah.
All right, here's another question that I think kind of naturally flows from that one, from another AA member here. How do you find inspiration, Daryl? How do you find inspiration?
Jeez. I think for artist to artist, this is a very personal question. Personal, not necessarily in the sense that it's going to make me emotional or anything, but personal in the sense that
You gonna cry?
Yeah,
you baby?
I think it's personal in the sense that every artist has their own specific ways of finding inspiration. You know, what do you draw from? And that really will largely influence what you even make, like what type of artist you are. So I draw from things that are important to me, specifically. So sometimes I make environmental work, sometimes I make political work, sometimes I make work that deals with psychological stuff or mental illnesses, you know. Anything that's really affecting me in my life, I make work about it, and I do that because, one, selfishly, I want to work through these problems, and one way of doing that is to separate myself from that problem, think about it critically, and I'm talking about making the artwork. Think about the problem critically, think about how I want to represent that problem, what do I want to communicate with it, and by the end of my artwork, I understand the problem a lot more. I understand like what I really think and what I really feel about this subject, and then I can also use that to tell people what I think and challenge other people's perspectives. And
also, it's what you know.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that's another important thing. You got to make what you know. You got to make what. You can't be like, oh man, I don't want to make. I'm really interested in, let's say, fantasy novels, but I really want to make I want to make work about chairs. You're not gonna make the chairs because you don't give a shit about the chairs. You care about the fantasy novels. You got to make work about what you care about.
Yeah.
What you're really interested in, and that'll drive you to finish the work and keep going. But what about you?
So for me, and I've said this more than a few times, inspiration is definitely external, and for me, motivation is very internal. You know, motivation is your personal endeavor to get up and go every single morning. You wake up and you're like, I have to self-motivate myself to go to work and or to, you know, do whatever my art form is or whatever that thing is for you. And then inspiration is what I pull from every outside source into my life, my art, and I pull a lot. Like, I think pretty akin to what you said. I think you summed it up pretty well. What you know and, you know, what you love, what you feel, all of these things.
But I think there's some good points there. Definitely, like, I think the point that, like, you have to pull from, I like the external thing, and, like, do what you love. And, like, also I think it comes with, like, what's the definition of artwork for you? Is it something that's beautiful? Is it something that says something?
Is it, you know, like you said, fantasy stuff that you want to pull from specifically? I know tons of artists that I follow that specify to only sci-fi because they love sci-fi. Exactly. You know, they grew up and they watched Star Wars and it blew their fucking gourd. Yeah. And now they're like, now I just have to make all the sci-fi stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Or they grew up and they played World of Warcraft and they're like, now I have to make all the fantasy stuff. So it's what you love, I think, and whatever you can pull from, those long car rides where you're just kind of talking to yourself like a psychopath, whatever it is.
Yeah, and you can't be afraid of like not being successful because of the content. Like, if you really love making work, but that work doesn't seem mainstream to you, so you're worried about selling content you're worrying about commercial aspects rather than like personal content aspects and things that you love, I think you're always gonna fail and end up hating artwork if you make things because of like commercial reasons. If you try to make things because you want to sell them, Not saying that you shouldn't make things and try to sell them. You should, but if you make them primarily because you want to make money, that I think you're gonna get burned out on art really fast because it's just not rewarding. It's not the same thing as doing something you love. It's getting a job to make money, just like any other job you've had in the
right.
past.
I think you'll always be more successful personally, however you define success, if you start with something that you love, like you said.
Yeah, definitely.
And digital sculpting is something that I really love, and I love 3D printing, and I would love to make some collectibles or toys and have them on my desk. That sounds awesome. That sounds like something I would love to do.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm leaning more towards now. So definitely do what you love.
Yeah.
Pull from what you love.
Yeah,
do what you love. Guys, hey, I think we said we might not ever publish this, but we were talking about, the 4 types of arts.
Oh, yeah.
And the most important of the arts was love.
Was it? Oh, that's right.
It was something drawing, painting, sculpting, and love.
And love? Was that?
Yeah, I think those are the 4 art forms we've decided.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
very classical.
If your art form doesn't fall in one of those, we're sorry, you're not actually an artist.
Yeah. We know what we're saying. I'm in school.
I've graduated from school, so I know even more.
Yeah.
So we forgot to do our little segment at the beginning where we say a word each and do a little bit of an art prompt for people, whether they're gonna draw it, paint it, sculpt it, or love it, whatever art form they choose. Yeah. So I was thinking, you say a fantasy word, since you just said fantasy, okay? And I'll say an occupation, like a job, okay?
A job?
Yeah.
So my fantasy word...
Or so if I said like lawyer and you said some kind of fantasy word that would apply to that.
Okay, so a job and then so I'm trying to say like a character?
Maybe.
Like a fantasy character.
So if you said like wizard, lawyer, something like that, along those lines, maybe. Okay, so let me think of a really good occupation.
Bing, 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 da, da. No, I don't know.
If we keep doing that, we'll probably get some kind of copyright strike.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. How many seconds can you?
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Hobbit.
Garbage man.
Garbage man? A hobbit garbage man?
A hobbit garbage man.
Yes. Send me your hobbit garbage man.
So when this hobbit garbage man, this hobbit man pulls up,
hobbit man?
Is he the one?
Hobbit? Just like an average human height.
Is he the one driving the vehicle? Like, is
no, dude, he's getting the fucking garbage.
Okay, so he's hanging on the back.
Yeah, dude.
Willy-nilly.
Like he's like hanging on by his hands.
Okay.
He's all like he's horizontal completely because he's a small hobbit.
Yeah,
he can't hold on. So he's all
Okay,
he gets
I
out,
like it.
The trash cans are bigger than him. He has to like.
He's very strong though.
He's very strong.
Yeah.
But his asshole of a driver is a regular man, and he can help him, but he doesn't. He just watches him struggle every day.
A regular, average-sized human.
Yeah.
Whereas, how tall are hobbits, you think? Like 3 feet? I don't know. I don't know how tall a hobbit is.
I think they're like
shorter than a normal boy.
Like Diglett size.
Diglett? Maybe Doug Trio at the most.
Yeah. If you stack Doug Trio on top of it,
if you got one hobbit. 3 Diglets. I was listening to something earlier that was essentially saying, how did Pokemon run out of ideas in the first 151? They were like, Diglett, okay, Diglett, yeah, imagine that, but what if there's 3 of them?
And that's his evolved form, right?
Yeah.
It's like his parents show up, like...
or Magnemite. Like, I don't know. What if there's 3 of them? Yeah. There's so many of them. Duo.
They're just floating around, and then they just, like, the magnets, so they just attract each other,
right.
Just dink, dink, and then they evolve. They don't actually evolve, they just,
I'm surprised there's no, like, triple Pikachu just, like, taped together. Like,
yeah. They should just have one that's just
It's a Pikachu with 3 heads.
Yeah, but really, they're just taped together.
That's real art.
Pikachu with 3 heads?
Well, just anything. Take any idea and just 3 of them.
3 of them?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be in my next series.
Okay, so here's one.
One.
Here's a question I personally have for you, Daryl.
Really?
Yeah. Have you ever sculpted a penis?
Ever sculpted a penis?
Yeah. A little wee.
I think I have sculpted a penis, a little tiny one.
Just a tiny Daryl size one.
Yeah, just like a micro penis, like the one that I have. Just kidding. Or am I?
Done.
I'm not. I'm just kidding. But yeah, actually, there's a little thing that happens in our studio where someone has sculpted. I didn't sculpt this penis, but someone sculpted a little penis out of like, what's that clay called? You put it in the oven and you bake it.
Monster clay?
No, it's not monster clay. It's Sculpey. Sculpey.
Oh.
So I made a little penis sculpt.
Super Sculpey.
Yeah, a Sculpey penis, and then.
I think it's the same type of material.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, we just hid it in people's spaces. So like everyone has their own private space.
That's awesome that you say that, because where I used to work, I have not personally sculpted a penis ever. But
not even digitally?
No. I should, now that we're talking about it. I should just sculpt a schlong.
You gotta perfect that.
Too much bourbon.
Too much bourbon. I didn't even drink it yet. You gotta perfect that male human figure, you know?
Oh, that's
you
true.
gotta get
That's
the
a good
pee-pee
point.
in there. Oh, I guess I have sculpted a penis.
I remember.
I've done live modeling before of a man who was naked, so I sculpted his penis. It was very like quick and not good because I didn't have a lot of time.
Very quickie. Quickie
it's a
penis.
quick penis.
Got
making,
it.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, like I said, I've never sculpted a penis, but it's funny that you say your little story there, because someone I used to work with, there's like these little plastic beads that if you heat them up, you can kind of mold them together. I'm not sure what it's called, but you'll like heat up a cup of water, put the beads in, and then they all kind of mold together. And then you have a quick amount of time to kind of form it to whatever you want, and then it solidifies. So
Ben is over here like, form it to whatever you want, and like making dick grabbing gestures with his hands.
Yes.
It's like, just
form it. Just
form it, you know?
So this guy I worked with sculpted a penis really quick, really crude, not very good, but it got the point across.
Yeah, of course, yeah. You
and
looked
then,
at it like, that's a penis.
And then he shoved it on the end of our project coordinator's pen, his digital pen that he uses to sculpt.
Yeah.
And he just jammed it on there. In this heated plastic, it's still a little moldable, but as it sits and solidifies, it eventually solidified and just was stuck on the end of this pen.
That's awesome. So it's set and it wouldn't come off?
It was stuck there for a good 24 hours before he was able to actually get it off.
Oh man, did he use both sides of his stylus pen? Does the other side like an eraser function?
No,
or
not
right
for
click?
him. So his pen was a specific type. It didn't have the eraser on the other side. It was for a different software. So it's I can't remember what the name of the arm. It's some kind of like ergotron arm attachment connected to this pen that works with this particular software. But,
Okay. So it wasn't super detrimental. It didn't ruin his day.
No, I think he ended up going and grabbing another pen from somewhere else eventually because he couldn't get it off.
That's awesome.
But then our friend, the guy who sculpted it, eventually ripped it off and then hid it in his drawer, and then it, traded desks throughout the coming months.
Yeah, people would just take this little sculpey penis and put it in pots or like underneath a sculpture you're sculpting. One time someone someone's sculpting a horse and they just stuck it on the horse where it would be anatomically, and it was hilarious. I think it broke eventually. One time one of my professors walked in and was like, "Is that a penis?" And it was just sitting on my desk. I hadn't noticed it. It was in a jar or something. And I was like, yeah, it's a penis.
Yes, indeed.
And he was like, I don't know. He's like, I don't want to know what that person's trying to tell you.
Some subliminal messages.
Yeah.
It's got your initials carved in it.
Yeah, a little heart. a little heart carved in it. No, it was a good time. I'm sad that tradition has ended.
Yeah, penis sculpting's a good time, I think, just in general.
Yeah, just
next stream, tune in, guys.
Yeah, we'll have a live stream penis sculpting. I wonder if that'd be allowed on YouTube.
Definitely not.
You don't think so?
Not the way
artistic purposes.
Not the way YouTube has gone recently. They might keep it on there, but they would demonetize you within seconds. I did a how to sculpt breasts video, and it got demonetized faster than I could click the upload button.
Really?
Yeah.
They were like, "Fucking, I'm waiting for it."
Yeah, they knew. They were like, they have some hotkey terms that probably auto demonetize, and then from there they double check.
That's not fair.
The new YouTube's a little bit more Thunderdome than in the past.
Thunderdome?
It's a wild wasteland out there. It's a little more dangerous than it used to be. And they kind of really sticky good. They give you this nice yellow piss icon on your demonetized content, so it's just kind of staring you in the face, and you don't have any any reason or know-how for why it's demonetized. But in the case of, how to sculpt breasts, I can kind of guess why they consider.
Why did you demonetize this? Breasts. Yeah. This voice from God.
It said boobies on your video.
We can't handle breasts, the human body. Yeah. Sorry, YouTube, I don't mean to. They're listening to us now like, that's not getting money.
This is absolutely not advertiser friendly.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, do you have any other videos that's happened to?
Oh, yeah. It could be something like you say fuck in your video too many times, and then it's demonetized.
How many is too many times?
I don't know. So like I said, your video will get demonetized, but it will not tell you why it got demonetized. It'll just say demonetized, no longer advertiser friendly.
That's a little ridiculous.
Yeah, we don't have to get into it.
Okay.
Like
we'll just cut this segment.
Like I said, YouTube's a wild wasteland a lot more than it used to be now.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, here's one for you, Daryl. Specifically for you, because this doesn't really apply to me. Maybe I can kind of flip it and make it work for me, but I don't know if that's applicable. If you could have any one feature from the digital realm of sculpting and have that in your traditional world, what one feature would you want?
Symmetry!
Yes, I knew you would say that. Okay, I wasn't sure if you would say undo, like the undo feature, but I was like,
no,
undo's so, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Undo's so useless. I rarely even, it's useless. You don't need it.
Yeah, you can just
I can make a good decision, and I can fix my mistakes.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah, symmetry would be fucking great. I guess I shouldn't say that. Symmetry would be great. Yeah, if there's one thing that's the most annoying thing in the world about traditional sculpting, especially when you're doing figures, just try to do the eyes. You got the one eye. It's just so good. You're just like, yes.
This eye.
That's what I wanted.
Great.
And then you go over to the right eye and you're like, when did this turn into a butthole? I don't know when that happened, but I sculpted a butthole on this right side. The left side's good. The right eye's... No, I mean...
Eye patch it.
Symmetry, yeah. It is difficult for like things that are supposed to be symmetrical for traditional artists to be like, oh well, that's
in digital. I not only have just symmetry across the x-axis from left to right, but I can do symmetry from any direction.
Yeah.
I can also do radial symmetry. So if I wanted to like quote spin a pot or spin some clay, for me it's quite simple compared to
just
exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you had those tools, I think that's what if I could do anything from digital sculpting into traditional, I would do the same thing.
Yeah. What about you? Anything from the traditional world?
I think the only thing that really makes sense is kind of having some haptic kind of feedback in the sense of you can feel your clay and you have just all the tactile sensation and dexterity of your hands, because your hands have so much subtle control of whatever you're attempting to do, that just by kind of touching your clay and working with your hands, you have that ability, whereas I can only interact through single inputs, single brush inputs, whether that's, a specific brush that's trying to carve down a surface or make it plainer or whatever that is. I don't have the option to just like reach in and grab my sculpture and try to work at it, especially in those rougher stages, those earlier stages. I feel like that would be really nice to have.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you are only going through like a screen and you have a screen and it's 2-dimensional, but you're working with a 3-dimensional object. So yeah, I can definitely see that for sure. And plus, your hands are so tactile and like feeling and understanding that sort of thing. And yeah, that is really nice about traditional sculpting. That is one thing when I did some digital ZBrush stuff, I was kind of like, oh, this is kind of annoying. Like, I could just, like I always just wanted to, like,
how to... Like you said in our last recording, the struggle with my side of the thing is learning the software and learning how to use the tools. So for you, you were talking about you sometimes even looking at your clay, like if you're spinning, sometimes looking at it can maybe throw you off a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
But by doing it by feel, you understand that a lot more. Well, for me, it took me a long time to understand the software, but just understanding also how the geometry is going to react to whatever I do to it. And just kind of being able to understand, not necessarily feel exactly, but having a better understanding of my tools that are available to me and exactly what I can do with all of those.
Yeah, you're able to implement your tools effectively and efficiently.
Yeah, your language is groping, and my language is
learning. It's all mental.
I don't know. You're a groping boy, though.
Yeah, I definitely like working with my hands.
Yeah, you're a pervert. I'm not.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. You made a video about sculpting breasts.
Yeah.
And it got demonetized, so what's that mean?
Yeah. Next one's going to be sculpting a penis. So
yeah, exactly.
We'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
We got to even the playing field a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. Should we do another question?
Is there another question from another AA member?
What is the worst art you've ever seen in recent memory?
In recent memory. So, like, we're talking like the last 6 months, last year.
In I don't know, in recent memory, what's you can pick, whichever one's a better story, maybe.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of bad art. It's hard because I don't see a lot of bad art.
If you can't think of one,
yeah, you go first, and I'll think.
Right, I have a pretty good one.
Yeah.
So in Cincinnati downtown, because we live in the Cincinnati area, both of us. There's an art exhibit there. I can't remember the name of the building off the top of my head, but maybe you can. I think it's on 5th, towards central, kind of more easterly. It's a museum, open museum, free to go to, free to attend. It doesn't matter.
Is it the CSE?
What?
Contemporary Art Center?
Let's say it's that.
Is it?
Is it all glass in the front?
Yeah. Do you go inside and there's like little whirly things on the walls?
Yes.
Lights? Okay, that's the CSE.
Yes, the Contemporary Art Center.
Yeah.
The CAC.
The CAC. Yeah.
Okay, so I went to the Contemporary Art Center in downtown Cincinnati, and walk in, it's free, so I don't feel that bad about this whole experience, I guess, because I didn't pay for it.
Yeah.
But I walk up the stairs, go visit one exhibit. Every single floor is typically an entire exhibit. So I go to the first one, and I can't remember what it was off the top of the head. Obviously, it didn't faze me that much, but we go up to the second floor, and the second floor is a bunch of nude photos plastered everywhere, like all over the walls. There's some big ones, there's some small, all sorts of different sizes. And then there's this table in the middle of the room. Everything's empty except for this one table. And it's a glass case, and inside are all these papers and letters and all this stuff telling the story about this specific exhibit and how people attempted to get it taken down so many times in different locations. And it's kind of become this thing where it just kind of travels around. And obviously certain people want to take it down because, it's pornography, whatever it is. So there's all these comments that you can read in here, and I'm like, okay, that's kind of interesting. And then I go around and start looking at some of the art.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, question before you go any further. You said plastered on all the walls, so I'm imagining like
they're framed.
Nudes on nudes on nudes. Okay, they're framed nudes?
They're framed, but there's lots of nude photographs.
Were they like very professionally shot?
We'll get there.
I think I saw the same exact exhibit.
Okay, so I'm looking around at all the photos, and I love anatomy. Like, I love studying. I love studying the human form, male and female. And, I have 2 nude models of male and female right here on my desk. So obviously I'm not like shy to look at the human body. But all these photographs of these nude models were terrible. The art, it didn't even register for me. Some of them would be black and white, but just the shot would be so bad. It just wasn't even something that I considered good. The lighting on them would just be very flat, or it'd be something where it's just a very boring centered photo. There's like nothing to do with
composition.
No thought to composition even at all. It's just the thing that would have upset me, that I'd be like, take this garbage down, is not your nude photos, but the fact that it's garbage. Yeah, it's garbage art.
This is horrible. It's not photography. It's just...
Honestly, like a 15-year-old... It looked like a 15-year-old was handed a freaking Canon camera and said, this is a very high-resolution piece of photographing piece of technology. Like, go ham!
Yeah.
Here's some naked peeps.
And they put it on auto and just like, click, click.
Yeah.
Click, click, center. Forget about the rule of thirds. Center everything. Yeah, no. I don't know if I saw that exhibit, directly. Was there a photograph of a man in a suit with his
schlong out?
With his genitals
I
out?
feel like I remember that one.
Yeah, okay. Then I probably saw that exhibit. I remember that photograph because I just only remember thinking like, oh, this is actually a good photo. Like the lights were nice. He was African American, and the background was black, and his suit was like probably a light tan. It was black and white photograph, but it was like a light color.
Yeah, I do remember this one.
Yeah, it was like very well highlighted, and like his skin color blended in with the background pretty well. So like it did make his genitals stand out, which whatever. I'm not trying to judge on like, ooh, that's gross. It's a human form, because I'm pretty comfortable with it too. Just being a sculptor, just something you get used to. But I thought this is a good photograph, and then I remember looking at all the other photos and being like, these are garbage. These are like just the same thought you're thinking. Like these are just the worst photographs.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, that was like one of the first ones on the right when you first walked in, and that's like where I started. And I'm like, what the hell is this? This is trash. That's trash. And it was like the third or fourth one down. I was like, that's not that bad. Like the lighting's actually had some thought
it's
there.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, there's it's an interesting composition. They use negative space and what, but like the rest of them are just like, what the hell is this? Yeah. Nice close up of a vagina. Nice close up of a spread vagina. Like this isn't even anything that I could comment on.
Yeah, and this is one thing that makes me angry about contemporary art, is that content goes over craft. So there's a lot of like anti-craft people out there, which are people that are like, you shouldn't care about how good something looks aesthetically. You should care about the content or the idea that I'm trying to express through the artwork.
Which is bullshit.
That's bullshit, in my opinion. Like, if your whole exhibit is a chair in a room, that's not artwork, man. You put a fucking chair in the room. Oh, well, what if you made the chair? Well, then you're a carpenter. You're not an artist. I don't know, like... And
get a smaller room for your chair.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, well, I'm trying to get the idea of, like, like orphans. And it's like, and how is anyone going to connect those two things? How you did no work... And, like, your concept is so detached from what you're presenting that they're not even talking anymore. They're just two separate ideas. You thought too hard on it. You try to make this, like, you force this thing that didn't work.
You thought too hard.
But people love it. People love it. It's in the CAC. That's a huge gallery. That's a huge museum.
Yeah, could you imagine getting your work there?
Yeah, it'd be insane. Yeah, and it's just like...
Tons of people go there.
Is this conceptually weird enough, maybe, or is this controversial in any way? If it's controversial, it's getting in. Like, not always, but most of the time.
I'm just going to take a lot of close-up pictures of my butthole.
Yeah, exactly. And you would totally get in. Totally. I think, going off of that story, my worst art I've seen recently would be, actually, it was in Cincinnati. I forget what the gallery was. It's like it's actually a pretty popular one, pretty... semi-famous in the region, but I forget the name, unfortunately.
There's a few that I know of downtown.
Yeah, it wasn't downtown. It was like on the outskirts.
Okay.
But it was an anti-craft show again. So this show is
more focused on
concept.
What it's attempting to say than the actual art itself.
And sometimes it's more focused on literally providing badly made art for the purpose of challenging the definition of what is art or what is considered art. Which is annoying to me. I don't like it when people make art for artists, in the sense that, like, I'm making art that only has to do with people in the art world. Because, like, then why? Like, isn't art about everybody? Like, and that's my definition of art, I guess.
Art's colorblind, Daryl.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm just saying, like, when you niche it in so far, like, there's already a small amount of artists, and when you make work that can only speak to those small amount of artists, like, kind of what's the point of that? And people will yell at me for saying that, because they'll say, like, Duchamp did really important things with stuff like that with his ready-mades. And I do think that's important, but I would never make art like that. But anyway, this art was made poorly and in a hurry. I told you a story about this, actually, once. There was, like...
The metal ball?
The metal disc, yeah. So someone had 2 circles cut out of steel. It's like 1/4-inch steel. Not spheres, mind you, circles. 2 circles. And then they cut one of the circles, like, pretty much all the way through... Or they cut one of the circles in half, and they glued it right in the middle of the other circle. So now you have this, like, weird, like, 4-sided circle thing, and it's sitting on the floor, and there's a little, like, lemon drop. I swear it's like a lemon drop, like a candy.
A piece of candy.
A piece of candy that had, like, hairs and shit on it.
Oh, my gosh.
And then they, like, glued it to the metal thing. And that was the whole piece of work.
Like, just plopped on top of it.
Yeah, and it was on the ground. It was just on the floor.
So 2 metal discs, essentially,
Two metal discs.
and then a lemon drop.
And then a lemon
plopped
drop.
on top.
And I don't know what it was. I don't know why it was there. Had no aesthetic value to me. And
no information about it?
No information anywhere. It was just in the middle of the floor in front of a photograph, which was quite nice. The photograph was nice. And it was done. The photograph was done by a different artist. The curator just put this sculpture.
It was a photograph of their crappy sculpture.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The photograph.
It said, "This sucks." No, but I mean, like, I didn't understand it, and I think the one reason I hate it so much is because my professor tried to
defend it.
He tried to defend
bit.
it. He was playing devil's advocate. He was trying to be like, "Well, think about the purpose of the lemon drop." And I was just like, no one in the class was having it, but he was trying to be like, well, like, before you dismiss it immediately, just give it a chance. And I did, and I gave it a chance, and
I gave it a chance, and then I went back to my immediate forethought, which
I was like, this is trash. This is trash. If I saw this in my house, I would throw it away. Or like, if I went into...
Why isn't that in my garbage can?
Yeah, exactly. Like, who put this... Who broke into my house and left trash in the floor? Like, that would be my thought. Not, look at this amazing art. And maybe that's my bad. I don't know. He was in a gallery, he or she was in a gallery, so I'm not going to be too nice to them because they got exhibited, so...
You are, if you present your art to anyone, if you open it up to the world, you're opening it up for critique, essentially.
Yeah. And a very harsh critique, too.
Yeah, because people love to tear stuff apart, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure people could tear my stuff apart. And what they would say, I would probably agree with them. But at least I put a lot of time and effort into it. I think that's apparent in my artwork, even if it's not the best. It's still like, oh, this person gave their best effort, even if it falls short of, like, the most professional or, like, the cream of the crop or whatever. Still, like, effort is shown. The thing that made me really mad in that artwork and artwork that's like that is there's no effort shown. So I'm like, this took you 5 minutes.
Right. Which is...
one of the things we talked about.
Right, which is one of the things that we have talked about previously, where we value more so the intentional effort that you put into a thing to make it art, whereas making 2 circles with a lemon drop on it seems like something that, my nephew could do.
Yeah, it's very frivolous.
You're right.
It's very just like, meh. It's like someone went up to him like, make art now! And they're like, oh! And they're like,
gotta go.
Yeah, they like, had 2 discs in their hand. They're like, and they like spit out their candy and glued it on it and threw it on the ground. They're like, did it!
Yeah, art! We're good.
And that was the whole point of the show. So, I mean, I guess they succeeded in making bad art.
They succeeded. Next time I'll just bring a garbage can.
Yeah.
And I'll
just clean up for them.
Well, 1, that'll be my art piece, but 2, yes, also I will begin filling that garbage can up with all of the other exhibits. This is my personal art.
Yeah.
It's throwing your art away. Your garbage.
My artwork is a collection of all your garbage artwork.
I think this is actually the most... this is the biggest statement. I think you could make at one of these exhibits, actually.
You could be like, this is so conceptually superior.
Yeah. This is the next step in the evolution of what is art. Challenging art.
And then the next step would be taking that trash can to the dump. Like recycling.
We're challenging the challenge of art at that point. We're going, that extra mile.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so you were talking about critique there a little bit, and we were both talking about critique and how when you make something and you kind of present it to people, it's kind of open for critique. At school, do you guys have sessions where you have kind of like an open table of critique where everybody can kind of pitch in? And also, with that, are people like... I would imagine that people in an open setting, especially face-to-face, that people would be very, very reserved in their critique of other people's art.
Okay. So the first part of that, yes. If you go to any art school, this is one of the really nice things about art school, is that you have critiques. Critiques are days, usually in studio classes, in which you have a finished product, so you work for a while. You work for a while on a product or an artwork, and you come up with your idea, you talk to your professor, talk to your friends, and you make your work.
Before you start? Is that what you're talking about right now?
Before you start your critique. So, like, before critique day, your professor gives you a project, you come up with your idea, you start making it, and you get feedback from your peers. You should get feedback from your peers as you're making it. And then there's a critique day, which is essentially how you get graded in studio classes, which is, you present your work, you tell the background a little bit, talk about what you did, and then generally your professor will start the conversation with like, okay, like, why did you do this? I see that you did this. Was that an intentional decision? What material are you using? Why are you using that material? What is the effectiveness of what you're trying to say, and what are you actually saying? And they'll start asking all those questions, and then you are defending your work. A critique is very much, you have to defend your work. You have to have a defense for why you're doing what you're doing. You have to have a reason for everything. I mean, that's what art is, and that's what going to art school tries to teach you. Is how to think like an artist, which is, in my opinion, one of the most important skills you can have.
Right, and I think I listed that as like a fundamental, the story, the why of everything that you're doing.
Exactly, yeah.
Which I think is often, at least in the beginning stages, I think it's very often overlooked.
Yeah, you can always, that's one thing that one of my professors has told me, he's like, you can make the work later. Your craft will get better after you graduate. I'm not worried about that, because you will make the work in the next 10, 20 years. He's like, but if you never learn how to think correctly, well, then your work will never get much further conceptually, and your work will never mean much aside from how nice it looks. Which is, if you're trying to be a traditional artist, it's an important thing. And then the students will weigh in, they'll generally say, no, this is generally...
They'll compliment sandwich you?
Yeah, this is generally forbidden from critiques, saying, I like this. Those words are not allowed. You're not allowed to say, I like that! Or, I don't like that, because it doesn't give the artist any information. It's just useless noise.
It's an opinion.
Yeah. And so generally it's like, okay, well, your use of color really brings out the conceptual idea of whatever you're trying to say, or that, this, that, the other thing. When it comes to reserved, people are generally reserved.
That's what I would at least imagine, just because it is like a face-to-face confrontation of telling someone... about their art and how maybe they didn't go about it in the best way. Yeah,
so this is a problem that people do face, but I think artists learn very quickly to get a tougher skin. You have to learn, especially when you're being critiqued, you have to learn how to separate yourself from the work and not take critique as personal insult. If I see something that's wrong or think could have been handled better, or I didn't think a lot of time was thought into the reason that the thing was added or made,
right,
I'm going to bring it up, and I'm going to say, I'm going to say it politely, I'm going to say it respectfully, but it's going to be said, and you as the artist, you have the responsibility to say, okay, like, this person is not trying to insult me,
right,
but they are trying to help me, and they're talking about my work and not me personally. Which it's hard to separate the two. It's hard.
It's very hard to separate the two, like you said, for kind of in the beginning for people when they're just starting out. But you do build a thicker skin.
Yeah.
As someone that kind of admins a couple communities online and has some people reach out to them every once in a while, just asking for critique. A lot of the time. When I give critique, I don't see this very often, because if I give critique, I'm typically specifically asked for it, and people are grateful for it. But if I'm just kind of creeping on an online community that I'm a part of, I can see people ask for critique and receive critique, and then they defend themselves to the extent of saying that that person's comment essentially doesn't matter. Like, for example, someone will post a bust of a character that they're sculpting, and they'll say, hey, can you critique this? And someone will give very obvious kind of comments on what is wrong with it, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, this looks like trash. There's literally a million things that I could list here that you could work on, but I think everybody else is doing a lot better job than me kind of jumping in and getting on the bandwagon. So they'll make these comments, and then the person will try to defend their decisions. Well, I wasn't trying to go for perfect anatomical correctness in that area, or something to that extent, but I think you need to be clear when you're asking your critique. And like you said, if a comment is made, you need to be able to give a reason why. And I think even giving that reason why, I think it's good that you give a little backstory on your work before you present it, and you say, here's what I was thinking here, and also here's what kind of critique I'm looking for. I'm going for a stylized Disney-esque character, so I don't want it to be anatomically perfect. You don't need to comment on every little thing that's wrong with the face or something like that.
Exactly, and that's what we do in art school, and that it is important to give a background because then otherwise people are coming in with their own assumptions of what they think that thing that you're making should be. So if you're trying to make a face, you might have a realistic sculptor come in and say, well, it's not realistic enough, and then you might have a cartoonist come in and say, well, it's not cartoony enough, right? So you have to give people a place to jump, a starting off point, for sure. What you're trying to render. But generally, that's how it goes. Now, sometimes people are just mean because they don't like the person, right?
I just hate you, so I'm gonna tear you apart.
Sometimes that happens. Sometimes
does
people,
it really?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Some people have panic attacks.
Oh gosh.
Some people cry sometimes. I mean, it happens. I mean, sometimes. A lot of these people, they do try really hard, but sometimes, like they're just not at the same level everybody else is. Maybe they might be a little bit behind. Maybe they just didn't have as much time as other people did.
I can understand that.
And they tried really hard, and they're getting all this critique. And while it is well-founded critique and it needs to be heard, sometimes it can be a little much for somebody. And a lot of people put a lot of heart and soul into their work, and it's very personal work.
Right.
So it kind of hurts. Sometimes it does hurt to be like, well, you did this thing wrong. And you're like, oh, well, yeah, you're right, I did do that thing wrong. But it's very important to be like, yeah, I did do that thing wrong.
But it allows you to improve on that thing and make it better. And personally, I feel, at least in digital, depending on what you're working on, it's very dependent on what you're working on. But if you receive a critique on something, like someone sent me a bust recently of a character that they were working on, so I mentioned that earlier as an example because that's what most recently happened. And I critiqued them on it, and then at the end I said, I recommend that you don't correct this one. I recommend that you do not correct this one. I recommend actually that you start completely over and keep these things that I have said in mind as you move forward on the next one. And then you're going to have the ability to look back on this one and the differences between the two, and you'll be able to see the improvement there. And then I think that's really going to solidify those things that I suggested, and even the more, the new things that you're going to learn from looking at references and everything else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, critiques are necessary. Critiques are necessary in the sense that you need to grow, like what you were saying. Like, you need a fresh pair of eyes on the work. I mean, there is a very, very real thing of, like, you're working on work for so long.
You just get blind to all of the stuff that's going wrong. Yeah.
And people get so close to their stuff, too. You need to...
take a step back and get a view of the thing as a whole. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's so much. There really is just so much that goes into it that needs to be considered. And sometimes just taking a step away can be a big thing. And sometimes taking 100 steps away and walking in the other room and being gone for an hour, or maybe being gone for a day or a week, whatever it takes for you to get some brand new fresh eyes on it can really help.
Yeah, I mean, one of my sculpture professors, he said, if you have a small sculpture you made and you don't really know how it looks, he says, and that's what he says, you don't know how it actually looks because you have an idea of how you wanted it to look, and then you made it to how you wanted it to look, but you're imprinting, you're pushing this idea of how you want it to look onto the actual object. He said, you will not know how that object, you will not know how your art looks, and so you put it away, hide it for a month. Come back to it. Look at it in a month after you haven't thought about it at all. Period.
And then you realize that you're just an idiot.
Yeah. And then you're like, oh,
everything's wrong.
I became homeless in the past. But you look at it and you're like, oh, that was either garbage or that was something really awesome.
Yeah.
And it can go both ways. By the way, it is important to note you can think a piece of work that you make is absolute trash until you put it away for a few months and then look at it and you're like, oh, that's actually pretty good. Just because if your expectations are too high and it doesn't reach those expectations, and you're like, oh man, I wanted to make this 1080p model with pores that are all anatomically correct, right? Like something super unrealistic.
1080 polygons.
Yeah, sorry, 1080p. I mean resolution, like really high resolution.
Right. Yeah, I was just giving you shit. I understood what you mean.
I know. I'm sorry, but really high resolution, like really awesome model, and you really just. You make a good one.
No amount of high detail can save your most basic primary forms.
Yeah.
If you start out crap,
it's gonna be crap.
It's gonna be crap.
That's important too. That is important. Yeah, it's important to be like
I said. There's so much that goes into it. There's so many.
Sculpting it's so much. That's why we're doing this, because we can talk about this forever.
Yeah, because we don't really have a chance to really talk to too many other people that are kind of in the same boat and of the same kind of mindset.
Yeah, I mean, I do, but I normally I miss those opportunities to talk to people about art, in the sense that like when I'm in an academic setting, I don't want to talk about it because I've been working on it all day, and like you have your art friends, and you're like,
this is kind of like a different,
exactly,
just kind of, Art Anonymous, right?
This is Art Anonymous.
Yeah.
This is our group. This is Art Anonymous.
This is
Come in, tune in, send us questions.
Come to your AA meeting.
Yeah. You get it out.
Send in your anonymous questions. We'll answer them very poorly.
Very poorly. I mean, there's just so much, man.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's so much. I'm just trying to think of like how to not. You can't surmise it either. Like each thing's a lesson.
That's why I said like one of the fundamentals is time. Right?
Yeah.
So much time has to go into it.
Yeah. 'Cause, yeah, you can give basic lessons, but you better believe like there's like for every basic lesson you get, there's 100 intermediate lessons, and then there's 1,000,000 advanced lessons. Which spin off.
There's so many things that we have become so accustomed to doing that even if we were to teach someone, we might not even be able to teach them very well, just because some things become so natural. Like you were saying, a photographer just says, oh, I just feel that this is a good composition. I just feel it, and you've done it so much that you kind of forget some of those basic things that you could help someone else with teaching them.
I was giving someone private lessons on wheel throwing, and she's a retired woman. I was just helping her out, she was trying to make lidded vessels, which is a more intermediate level of wheel throwing. So I'm helping her out, trying to show her forms and stuff. But what she was really interested in, I was throwing a form, just like a really basic, simple shape, just so we could get to the lid part. Mm-hmm. But what she was really interested in...
It sounds really hard. I'm trying to imagine how you like measure that out and get that right.
There's four simple ways of making lids.
You don't have to describe it all, but...
Yeah, but anyway, what she was most interested in was one of the most basic things that I do, which is how I shape forms, which is so natural to me, but so, like, incredibly different to her and something that she hadn't seen before, and, like,
Right, and I get questions all the time about how do I make my forms so clean, and I'm like, it's time, practice. Yeah, exactly. I don't know, I've done it a lot.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the thing. I was like, oh, like, you mean... Like, there's a hand technique that I use. I'm like, oh, this? And I showed her, and she was like, yeah, like, what is that? And I was like, oh, that's just how I shape. And she's like, oh. And then she was, like, trying to ask me, she asked me how to shape a pot. And I was just kind of, the answer that I gave her, and what you were saying about, like, not knowing how to teach it, I can teach wheel throwing, but as soon as she was like, well, how do you shape your pots? I was like, well, I just shape them.
I just do it.
I just like push them out and then push them back in, and then I like, it looks good. And once it looks good, I'm done. Like, you know what I mean? That was my answer. I was just like, you just make it look good.
It's true.
You just gotta look nice. You gotta make
there's
a nice
lot,
face.
but there's so much under the hood going on.
Yeah, definitely. And then once I thought about it for like 2 hours after that session, because I was like, damn,
crap.
Because I do want to teach, and I think that's really important to know how to teach. And I was like, damn, there's one thing that I failed her in, like not knowing how to tell her how to really make a good form. I was like, oh yeah, well I am doing all these little things. And it would take hours to explain to her exactly what I'm trying to do. And that's just the only way you learn it, once again, is time.
Yeah, I think so. All right, Daryl.
Speaking of which, that's time.
Yeah, that's time.
That's time.
Boom, there it is. All right, so how we're going to be ending this, is we're going to try to at least recommend one artist for our AA group to check out. So, I don't know if you have anyone off the top of your head. I came very ill-prepared.
I have someone off the top
of
my head.
You do?
Yeah, I already mentioned him. earlier. Christian Schmidt.
Okay, Christian Schmidt.
Yeah, let me...
What did I say? We eventually devolved into Michael.
Scott
and Michael. Michael Scott.
Michael Scott. Holy shit. Oh, man, what have we done? Talk about subconscious. No, it was... his name's Christian Schmidt. He's a... sculptor. He graduated from, I don't know where he got his undergrad. He got his master's at UC, which is the University of Cincinnati. And he is an adjunct professor at Northern Kentucky University right now. And he's also a really, really good sculptor. He's showing in Poland, I believe, right now. He has a piece in Poland. And he has another sculpture somewhere else. He has an Instagram. Look him up, really good.
Cool. Actually, I just thought of one off the top of my head. Since you said Instagram, because I was on Instagram a little bit right before you got here. Max Grecky, if I'm saying that correctly. I always say a name and then I say if I'm saying that correctly because I always just automatically assume I'm butchering the person's name.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say it's Max Grecky, and I'm pretty confident that it's Max Grecky.
Yeah, he's like, it's actually X. The M is silent.
The M is silent, yes.
So it's just...
Yes. All vowels are silent, so it's just mix Greek. Mix Greek.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so check out his art. He's on Instagram. Just give him a little search.
Is he a digital artist?
Yeah, he's a digital painter.
Digital painter. Cool.
Yeah, he's really good. I've actually sculpted some of his work, like his Homer Simpson piece, if you remember that one off the top of your head. Yeah. But yeah, he's a great artist. Check out his work. And that's what I got. And you got Michael Scott.
I got Michael Scott.
Cool.
Yeah. Does that conclude our AA meeting?
I think that concludes our AA meeting. So with that, we'll see y'all, or I guess we won't see you all. We don't know. We could do a stream, but we're not going to. No, you're not allowed to see our faces.
Yeah.
Well, you've probably already seen mine, but
yeah. And I've seen yours in my dreams.
Daryl's afraid to show off his horns.
Yeah, so. And my trident.
and his trident that actually has two notches. It's a bident, actually.
A bident. That doesn't sound as cool, does
it? It doesn't, right?
Yeah. It's like a hot dog roaster.
All right, hot dog boy. With that, I think we're good. So we'll talk to you all in the next one.
Next one.